Let's talk about Christian symbols and stained glass windows. Hello, everyone. If you ever find yourself in the western half of the state of Ohio, you may want to go out of your way to visit the area known as the land of the cross-tip churches. And I bet you can figure out why they call it that. It's a large area in which is sprinkled or are sprinkled dozens of century-old, beautiful Catholic churches built by the mainly German Catholic immigrants who settled in those areas. So there are seemingly endless expanses of corn and soybean fields, but dotted amongst those, you will find these very lovely churches in surprising variety. And as you're traveling the state highways through this area, at certain points, you can stop your car and look around you in a 360 and spot several of the steeples with crosses atop them. And likely the height of the steeples was used as a navigation help, an aid in finding one's way through what was then still relatively frontier country in the mid 19th century and up to the early 20th century. Mrs. Moving About and I have visited this area several times over the past few years and brought cameras along to record some of the lovely architecture and especially the stained glass windows, which we both very much enjoy, which I want to make sure to give credit here. Mrs. Moving About took all of the attractive pictures that you're seeing here. If there are any less skillfully done, those were likely mine on my cheap Coolpix camera that I had at the time. But we Protestants are at a disadvantage when we visit churches with their stained glass windows, in that we never learned the language of symbolism the way many Catholics learned it. And the images in the windows and on the architecture of many Catholic churches forms part of the catechesis of Christians in those traditions. And that is largely absent from your average Protestant church, certainly absent from the churches that I grew up in and the church that I attend now. So I was recently at a Mennonite thrift that I visit somewhat frequently and came upon this book that I thought might be a help the next time I visit the land of the cross-tip churches or any other place I find a Catholic church that is open to the public, which they almost always are, and I stop inside to have a look around. I found this book for $1 at my Mennonite thrift. This is a production of The Upper Room, still making devotional literature today in Nashville, I believe. This is from the 1950s or 1960s, it looks like, now that I see that. And it is, its stated purpose is to focus primarily on symbols that you would find in a Protestant church, as the Upper Room is a decidedly Protestant organization. So while certainly Christian symbols are universal among Christians. There are some that tend to be more peculiar to Catholicism versus Protestantism. So there are many shared symbols, but there are some you're more likely to find in a Catholic church or in a Protestant church, and not the other way around. Some of the symbols you come across in your travels in the land of the cross-tip churches are familiar and easily understandable. The dove, harp, there's a few that seemed ominous. The all-seeing eye seemed very Illuminati, but we are assured that it is a stern symbol that reminds us of the constant scrutiny of God. Being reminded of this aspect of God's personality may be disconcerting to some people, but we should remember that he watches in love and not in condemnation. The bronze serpent, described in Numbers 21:9. So Moses made a bronze serpent and set it on a pole, and if a serpent bit any man, he would look at the bronze serpent and live. It is used by Jesus in John 3:14 and 15 to illustrate the way he must be lifted up. He says, "And as Moses lifted up the serpent in the wilderness, so must the Son of Man be lifted up, that whoever believes in him may have eternal life." Here we have, of course, the Holy Grail, the chalice, that is, representing Holy Communion, frequently seen. The cross, probably the most common symbol in Christian churches of any sort. Some basic geometric symbols. The triquetra or triquetra you see on the spine of New King James Bibles frequently. There's a little section here on the symbols for the various apostles, which you will sometimes see in stained glass windows, especially this one, sometimes in combination with other symbols. Of course, the keys to the kingdom, symbol of St. Peter. Anyway, there are some symbols that I never understood. Here is one of those that shows up in stained glass windows. The pelican, in its peculiar position here, something going on. Like the peacock, the pelican has no specific scriptural origin. Of course, pelican does show up in the Coverdale translation of the Psalms. But it is a very old and very meaningful Christian symbol of the atoning death of Jesus Christ. The pelican in her piety was used in early Christian churches because of the legend that in times of famine, the pelican would tear a hole in her breast and feed her young with her own blood, thereby saving them by her own death. Since such a sacrificial love is analogous to that of Christ, this symbol is often used in our churches today to depict his great love and sacrificial death for the world. So that answered a mystery for me. The end of this book has some photographs and symbols that are from the Upper Rooms Chapel in Nashville. So if you visit Western Ohio or Eastern Indiana, maybe take a day trip. In one afternoon, you can visit dozens of churches that are almost always open and are beautiful on the outside and on the in. Maybe bring a book, something like this, to help you in interpreting what you are seeing, if you are a Protestant like myself, or if you are a Catholic that is just interested in the symbolism and want to go a little deeper in that, I recommend it. Whether or not you visit Ohio, I appreciate you visiting my channel today. Thanks for stopping by. Hope to see you here again next time.